You ever had that feeling that maybe, just maybe, someone close to you is feeling something more, but they're not saying it out loud? It's in the pauses, the way they look at you a second too long, the shift in their tone when your name comes up. It's not always obvious, but it's there. Quiet, unspoken, and alive. See, human connection is subtle. Most of us have been taught to mask vulnerability, to smile when we want to speak, to laugh when we want to lean in and confess. But the truth never really hides. It just shows up in quieter ways, in moments that psychology explains but life never really prepares us for. So let's talk. Let's have the kind of conversation people avoid, the one about how we sometimes miss the very signs that someone doesn't just like us, they feel something deeper, and they're hoping we notice. There's something strange about friendship. It begins so innocently. Shared laughs, inside jokes, late-night texts. And somewhere, in the rhythm of those conversations, one heart starts beating a little faster when the other walks into the room. They'll never say it outright, of course. Maybe they don't want to ruin what you already have. Maybe they're afraid of being rejected or misunderstood. Or maybe they're just waiting for a sign from you. Now, you might ask, why not just tell me? But here's where psychology gets fascinating. When we care deeply for someone, we become more cautious, not more daring. That hesitation, that restraint, it's not fear, it's value. They don't want to risk the closeness, the comfort, the connection. They're not afraid of you. They're afraid of losing what already matters. You might notice the way they remember the smallest things you've said, not the big moments, but the offhand comments. That time you mentioned your favorite drink, or a place you'd love to visit, and somehow they bring it up weeks later, without prompting. That's not just a memory. That's care dressed in detail. It's attention disguised as coincidence. Or maybe it's the way they respond when you talk about someone else. Have you ever caught a flicker of something in their face? A brief pause in their reaction when you mention a date or someone new. It's not anger. It's not even jealousy in the obvious sense. It's more like uncertainty. The quiet kind. The kind that wonders, am I too late? And what about proximity? How they sit closer when they don't have to. How their laughter seems fuller when you're the one telling the story. How their energy shifts in rooms where you're near. You can't always explain it, but you feel it. You know when someone leans in emotionally even when they're saying all the right friendly things. Psychologists call this emotional leakage, when what we try to suppress still finds its way out. The stolen glance, the prolonged silence, the way they type, delete and retype messages before hitting send. These aren't accidents. They're symptoms of someone trying not to cross a line they've already crossed in their heart. But maybe the most telling sign is the space they give you. Sounds counterintuitive, right? But someone who feels more than friendship often pulls back slightly. Not because they're uninterested, but because they're protecting something sacred. You, themselves. The possibility of something deeper if the timing ever feels right. Now let's flip the perspective for a moment. Maybe this is hitting too close to home. Maybe you are that person with the unspoken feeling. Maybe you're the one waiting, watching, hoping they'll notice. If that's the case, then you already know how heavy that silence can feel. How the moments when you almost say it echo louder than the ones when you actually speak. It's easy to dismiss these signs, to tell yourself you're imagining things. But emotional awareness, especially in friendship, isn't about logic. It's about intuition, connection. The gentle pulse that says, something is happening here. Something more. And here's what's wild. Your body usually knows before your brain does. Heart rate goes up when they text you first. You feel lighter after a conversation with them. You look for their face in a crowd, not because you're trying, but because that's where your focus naturally goes. The psychology of attraction isn't just mental. It's physical, emotional, even spiritual. You want to know the truth? Sometimes we already know they feel more than friendship. We're just afraid to admit it, because then we'll have to decide what to do about it. So we stall. We smile. We keep things light. We hide behind sarcasm and banter, hoping they'll decode our true meaning without us saying it directly. But love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, through moments that feel ordinary but aren't, through touches that linger half a second longer, through care that doesn't need to be explained. You ever notice how they always show up for you? Even when you didn't ask. That silent kind of loyalty that doesn't require an announcement. That's not just kindness. That's an investment. That's presence born from affection, not an obligation. And there's a difference between someone being nice and someone being invested. One feels casual, the other feels intentional, like they're building something with you, even if they haven't labeled it yet. There's this interesting concept in psychology called attachment visibility. It's the subtle way people reveal their emotional dependence through action, not confession. They'll protect you from hurt, boost you when you're down, and defend you behind your back. And when you're not around, they still talk about you in good ways. That's more than friendship. That's the foundation. But let's take a breath, because not every deep connection turns romantic. Sometimes, feelings stay hidden for a reason. Sometimes the timing's off, or the situation is complicated. But that doesn't make the connection any less real. In fact, it makes it more powerful, because it shows restraint, maturity, respect. Still, the signs, they linger. Like how they seem to glow a little more when you walk into the room, or how they ask you deeper questions than anyone else does, the kind that catches you off guard, because no one's ever noticed that part of you before. They want to understand you, not just your stories, but your silences. Not just your past, but your fears. And that level of emotional curiosity, that's not common. That's someone who's building a map of your heart. There's also emotional risk in all of this, because once you see the signs, you can't unsee them. You start to question every interaction. Wonder if you're reading too much into it, or if they're reading you just as deeply. But remember, the heart rarely lies. What we sense often holds more truth than what we're told. And if you're asking, what now? Then maybe it's time to just be honest, not necessarily with them, but with yourself. Because clarity always begins internally. Do you want more? Do you feel safe with them? Do you see them not just as they are, but as they could be, by your side? The beauty of unspoken feelings is that they don't vanish. They wait. They mature. And when the moment finally arrives, if it does, it's not fireworks. It's calm recognition. The kind that says, you've been there all along. And now, so am I. So whether you're the one feeling it or the one being felt, lean into the awareness. You don't have to act on it tonight, but don't deny it either. Because life moves fast, and the connections we ignore today might be the ones we wish we'd fought for tomorrow. Keep watching. Keep listening. Love has a way of revealing itself, not through declarations but through details, and maybe, just maybe, they're already hoping you notice. If you've ever wondered whether someone close to you sees you as more than a friend, now you know what to look for. Not just in their words, but in everything left unsaid. Because the truth always shows up, even in silence. And if this spoke to something inside you, don't forget to share it. Someone else might need to hear it too. Until next time, keep your heart open, your mind aware, and remember, real connection never hides forever.